Hi, today I want to share a course I made for Cardinal, a free modular synth software that is really useful for crafting guitar tones. This course is a comprehensive guide for guitarists and any musician who want to build their own guitar tone. Also, you can build emulation of amplifiers using free software. Cardinal is a free virtual environment for creating modular synth patches and effects. Let's start by understanding how modules work. I removed all of them and I just left the host audio one. Think it as an audio ins and out of your interface. To connect each module, find where the inputs and outputs are. Generally, ins are in the left side and outputs are the gray connector. If you are not hearing any audio, check the menu under Engine and enable audio input. Let's make a simple patch. To add an effect, just right-click and search by name or category. Let's add a wave shaper and an EQ master. Let's connect the host audio to the wave shaper. Now connect the wave shaper to the EQ and then back to the host audio. If you are using Ableton, this module is similar to the saturator device. You can browse the preset and change the saturator type directly in the module. Here is a list of effects that work really well for guitar. In this selection, you will find distortion, modulation, reverb and other effects, also utilities to control the modules. This is a framework I use for building guitar tones. Let's start with the basic. When you plug a guitar directly into the interface, the sound you get is a DI. Ever since amplifiers were invented, one of the main characteristics of guitar tone is saturation. If we use just one saturation for guitar, what we get is a harsh and too plain sound. To add some complexity, let's use 4 or 5 modules. The first 3 will be our preamplification. I think it as the color of the tone. The other 2 wave shapers act as a clipper stage, compressing the signal like the power tubes on an amp. Patching all together, you will get something like this. Now we have a richer sound from the way that different distortion stages interact. But because the mids and the highs on the guitar can add too much mod, amplifier had what we call a tone stack, an EQ curve, typically a smile shape, that balance how the signals saturate. It's also where we can adjust the overall EQ on the tone. Let's hear an A/B test of an emulation using Cardinal based on a Friedman VE amp. Now we have a more complex tone. With this basic setup, using different configurations and parameters, you can create an enormous variety of tones. Now let's take a look at adding different types of effects to the chain. Getting the order right is important for a clear professional sound, but you can always experiment to feel your ideal tone. Pre-gain is what I call to the stage where you prepare the signal for the saturation. More tones tend to saturate and compress the highs more. This adds clarity without taking the dynamics of the lows. It's also good to have control over the input volume at this stage. Now let's lay out the signal flow. We have a pre-gain, preamp and power amp. After this, let's add a cabinet. A guitar cabinet filters the high and adds some resonance that bring out a certain characteristic. Saturation without a cabinet can be really harsh. To set up a cabinet, filter the highs around 4 and 6K, cut the 80 to 100, and add a boost around 200. I recommend you using more than one EQ to add more complexity to the sound. After that, let's add modulation effects, like chorus, flanger or phaser. Modulations add extra depth to the sound, widen the guitar when it's combined with other effects. Putting modulation at the beginning gives you a more drastic retro sound, while putting it after the cabinet makes it clear and more open. Let's add a mixer. This is how you can divide effect in Cardinal. Simply plug the output of each effect into the input of the mixer, and the output of the mixer to the next stage. You can also feed the dry signal into the mixer to have a blend between the modulation signal and the original one. Time-based effects like reverb and delay create repetitions and play with timing. This type of effects help give the sound a sense of space. To connect these modules, you need to place the delay before the reverb, so the repetition tails go into space, which will create a more clear sound. At the end of the chain, you will have a more complex tone. Let's hear how it sounds. Macros are a way to control different effects without having to navigate all around the patch. They also let you adjust multiple parameters at once and set different ranges. They work with MIDI, so you can assign MIDI controllers to it. The device we will use for this is called Patch Master. It's customizable, you can add faders, knobs and buttons. You can also name it and change the look. For example, you can click in the parameter, outside, or on the label to change different stuff. You can assign up to 4 parameters of different modules to these macros. Buttons can have different modes, momentary, toggle and other. If it doesn't behave how you want, check these options. Also check the parameters option to change the range in the menu of the patcher. With simple slider, you can connect 2 signals and mix them together, blending them with a fader. Now we know how to patch guitar tones, let me show you how to reverse engineer them. For this I recommend using Cardinal as a plugin inside a DAW. You will need a sine wave and oscilloscope, and in this case we will use Gateway plugin for loading capture modules. First, let's add a sine wave to the audio track, load a plugin or effect you want to recreate, and then add Cardinal effect. Load the tone match template and place 2 oscilloscopes at the end. One for the tone we want to match, another one for the tone we are creating with Cardinal. The point of using sine wave is to get a clear view of how the signal is being saturated and clipped. This also lets you see how the frequency spectrum is being shaped. Play the sine wave with Cardinal off, only using the model we want to replicate. Open the oscilloscope one and press pause to lock the graph. Then switch to Cardinal. Turn off the plugin you are matching and open the second oscilloscope in a separate window. Now we can start tweaking Cardinal to match the tone until the waveform looks similar. I left some tips here to make tone matching easier. What you see in the oscilloscope is a waveform being modified by drive and clipping. Clipping controls the signal, while drive enriches the tone. The preamp section mainly controls harmonics and the color that gives the tone its shape. When the mids are lower in volume at this stage, the tone is more dynamic. Use the oscilloscope to read the decibel levels at different points of the waveform. The breakpoint is important for what is called edge of breakup tones. Sounds that are clean when you play soft, but saturated in higher dynamics. Asymmetries happen when the waveform crest and valley aren't identical. This is a characteristic of 2 amplifiers where the signal isn't clipped linearly. You can play with the settings, applying the asymmetries with the bias knob. Try adding these changes in the power section, so you don't mess with the phase too much. If you hear any weird muting, probably is related to that. The real advantage of building your own tone is that you can develop your own style, so you can approach tone building as part of an artistic expression. I hope this course helped you to develop your sound, understand how tone works, and reach your artistic expression through sound. I've also put together an ebook called Cardinal for Guitar, with detailed explanation of modules and connection. It includes Friedman amplifiers and other ambient patches for guitar, also with several templates and macro presets. If you would like to support future tutorials like this about music and sound, consider subscribing and grabbing this pack. Thank you for watching and see you next time.